Guns in America. Why are there so many? Why are people so passionate about them? Why are there so many deaths? Today on Contemporary Issue Wednesday. Alright guys, so today I'm starting a two-part series on guns in America. Why are people so passionate about it? What are the debates surrounding gun rights and gun control and regulation? All of these types of things. Today I want to give you guys a background and some context for people who come from America who are really passionate about gun rights, who like gun ownership, who promote the Second Amendment. I think particularly for an international audience, I've known because I've lived overseas for many years that one of the first things people ask me internationally is what's the deal with guns in America? And that's what I want to do today is give you guys some context that you can place in your minds as to why people are so passionate about guns. Next week's episode, we'll actually get into the nitty-gritty debates about gun control and why there's so much gun violence and these types of things. So before I get into the meat of my argument about why people are so passionate about guns, it's helpful to place American gun ownership in the context of the history of America. When America was first founded and as people were settling west, guns were an integral part of people's possessions. People used it for food, literal for survival, for hunting food. People used guns for protection from animals or from other people. And people also had guns because they would be just called up into local militias to fight for their either region or for their state or for other countries like Britain or France. And so there was a long history of guns being an integral, probably more than anywhere else, an integral part of the expansion of the conquering of America. But the meat of the argument here today and why people in America are so passionate about their gun rights comes down to the Second Amendment. Shall we read the Second Amendment of the United States? A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. And so there you go, ladies and gentlemen, the Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights. The first one was freedom of speech, and I talked about how that was so important last episode. The Second Amendment, the second thing that comes is the right for the people to assemble as a militia and the right for people to bear arms. Now, there's controversy wrapped around even the very explicit text of the Constitution because people who argue against gun ownership, against gun rights, say that the whole meaning, the whole context of the amendment was to be put in context to militias. You were allowed to bear arms because you were allowed to be a part of a militia. That practice is by and large completely gone with today. I'm not a part of any militia. No one I know is a part of really an official militia, state militia, a county militia. And so because that's gone away, we don't have to put so much emphasis on, people bearing arms. Now, a lot of people think that's either irrelevant. It says that we have the right to bear arms, and a lot of people think that that's an illegitimate argument because that the right to form militia and the right to bear arms is separated by commas, and so they're two distinct sentences. And so that's a little bit of the textual context. But what I can say without a doubt about people who support gun rights is foundationally they support gun rights because they want the ability to challenge their government, to resist their government. This is something that is core to who Americans are because the United States, or as it was then, the 13 colonies, declared their independence from Britain and had to collect their own arms, had to call their own people, their own militias, their own continental army to fight and resist the tyranny of the British government. And so being able to bear arms, being able to resist the government is in America's DNA. And gun rights advocates press for the ownership of guns because they say it is the most viable, it is the most legitimate, it is the most powerful way to keep your government afraid of your people, right? What's that quote from V from Vendetta? People shouldn't be afraid of their governments, government should be afraid of their people. And that is a core argument that gun rights advocates use. They say, hey, look, if the government's going to institute oppressive policies, or if, God forbid, they actually attack their citizens, we want to have a means of resistance. And so that's really the core, the foundational, the most powerful argument, and it's a passionate belief that gun rights advocates have of resisting the government, of keeping the government afraid or at least hesitant to oppress their people. If we have arms, we can take up arms against our government. Now, other arguments that gun rights advocates believe in is hunting. There's a huge hunting culture in the United States of America, so a lot of people have weapons for hunting. Protection from people breaking into your house, or even if you're walking down the street or you're in a public area. Many states have carry permits, that you can pass classes, you can go through exams, get a permit so that you can actually carry a handgun, either concealed or non-concealed, depending on the permit that you have, to protect yourself or to protect other people in the environment you're in. And again, the argument that people use is, hey, if a terrorist attack happened at a shopping mall in Tennessee, that terrorist probably wouldn't get very far because there'd be so many armed people in the mall to, take them out. And so that's the argument that people use. I'm not going to get into whether that's a right or wrong argument. I'm just wanting to give you context. Also, there's a large sporting culture around guns, trap shooting, target shooting. So a lot of people use it for sports as well. And again, I just think it comes down to a foundational American identity, association with, settling the colonies, moving west, having guns to hunt your own food, to protect your family, to protect your area and your people. And so you couple that with American people's belief in resisting the government at all costs. And I don't want you guys to underestimate the belief and the passion that people have in the United States about resisting their government. I haven't met any citizenry anywhere, and I've lived in many countries, who are as passionate about protecting their right to resist the government physically with arms than the United States of America, and it's because our history. And so there you go, guys. That's the sort of context I wanted to provide you with. People really hold on to the right to bear arms in the United States of America for many reasons, and they're logical reasons, and they're rational reasons. Now, I'm not saying that you guys have to agree with the context of, or the story and the narrative of, gun rights advocates in the United States. Given what I've told you, it's still perfectly rational, perfectly okay to challenge these assumptions. And what we're going to do next week, challenge the actual outworking of policy, of procedures in acquiring guns, the types of guns you can acquire, who can acquire guns. That's totally okay. But what my goal was today was to give you guys a context for why gun ownership is such a passionate part of who people are in America. And again, it foundationally comes back to resisting a government, resisting an oppressive government. All right, guys, that's the context. Next week, we're going to get into the actual details and the debate about the regulation of guns, who could buy guns, what type of guns you can have, what type of ammunition you can have. All of those things we'll discuss next week. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, remember, reality always trumps ideology.